NC pork, good for the plate, great for the state. What you saw over the last week in college football was everything that this sport promises and everything it still struggles to explain. Duke won its first outright ACC championship for the first time since 1962. Indiana shocked the country and won the Big Ten championship, and trophies were handed out on the field, but the arguments didn't stop at the boundary, because while teams were celebrating titles, the questions got louder. Who belongs? What matters more, wins, schedules, or logos? And does the expanded playoff actually mean opportunity or just more debate? The 2025-26 college football playoff bracket is now officially set, and for the first time, everyone in the field now has a clear, visible chance to win a national title, which both of our coaching guests today have been a part of in their lifetime. I am Mike Waddell. This is Bold North State Football Daily, and we are talking college football right here in the Bold North State of North Carolina with our coordinators. He is up and to your left. He is the pride of the University of Illinois, where he played in bowl games. He was a captain of a Rose Bowl team and also a 2013 national champion at Florida State. We're talking about the greatest recruiter in the history of college football, Tim Brewster. And up and to your right, he is our defending champion in his third year here on the North Carolina Sports Network as our defensive coordinator. He is the man, the myth, the legend. He comes from Guilford County, where he was an Elon fighting Christian back in the day and a 1996 national champion at the University of Florida. Go Gators. From St. Simon's Island, the one and only Jim Collins. Indiana is the number 1 seed. Ohio State sits at number 2. Duke is the ACC champion. Jim Collins, it seems like there's a lot already happened here in December, though it's only the 9th day of the month. It's hard to believe that signing day is already done and the bowl games are already set, but still people are upset about not making the CFP.
Well, there's no doubt. There's a lot of controversy. The committee is catching a lot of flack. You listen to everything that's being said out there by the media types and all that. We have a system that is broken, and we've discussed this all year long on this show. Not only the way that we're going to pick a champion and pick the people that can compete for a championship, that's broken, but our calendar, in my opinion, is broken. And you've got mostly, and Mike, you probably know this, of the 12 teams that are in this playoff, over half of them at least have either a new head coach or a new offensive or new defensive coordinator that are going to be responsible for what's going on throughout this playoff system. So it's absolutely bizarre. I'm happy for the teams that are going bowling, even though Notre Dame took their ball and went home and cried in the corner because they didn't get in. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying they probably should have been in. But at the same time, let's represent the system. Let's stay a part of the system and fix it in the offseason.
You know, guys, I was listening to some different content on Monday as I traveled to and from the North Carolina High School Athletic Association Championship Breakfast, and they're getting ready for the big games coming up in Durham, in Chapel Hill, and in Hickory this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. 8 champions will be crowned. But I'm listening to the college football postseason chatter, and man, everybody's upset about everything, but nobody's really coming up with a solution. But I did hear one, and it was that these postseason football bowl games that we have all been a part of for the majority of our careers. You guys have been to so many bowl games, you probably lose count. But they're talking about maybe moving these games from the football postseason to the preseason and having everybody get like that extra game, but it's a big intersectional bowl game where you're traveling at the beginning of the year instead of the end of the year. And since we like to entertain all ideas right here, Tim Brewster, what do you think about that idea of moving the bowl games from the end of the season to the beginning of the season where everybody is at their best, and it gives that extra intersectional game a chance to, I guess, diversify your resume for the college football playoff coming up at the end of the year, which would be the end all be all of college football. What do you think about that?
There's a bunch of teams that have decided they want out. Going back to what Jim said about the responses to being in the playoffs, being out of the playoffs, let's look at the difference between Clark Lee and Vanderbilt and the people at Notre Dame and the things that they had to say. They got after the ACC and they said, I just thought that it was an amazing, responsible, mature. Clark Lee said, we didn't get it done. They finished 10 and there's not a doubt in my mind that Vandy is in the top 12 teams in college football. No doubt in my mind. There is a doubt in my mind about whether or not Notre Dame is a top 12 team without any, with no question in my mind about that. And so the two things there, I think it would be really good. I think it'd be a good thing to be able to play a game prior to your opener, a 0-week game, right, Jim? And be able to find out and see exactly what we've got as a team as we go into our first real game the following week or 10 days after that.
I don't know how you accomplish that. Let's say that you and I are going to find a matchup for the Sugar Bowl. We're going to match up the SEC champion from the year before against the Big Ten champion from the year before. And then we're going to go to the Rose Bowl and we're going to match up the Big 12 champion against the ACC champion. Yeah, so I don't know. We've got scheduling issues in this country right now. And this is going to piss some people off that are not Power 4 schools, but I'm going to say it anyway. Until we reach that separation and we go out and we say, okay, and I don't know what the number is, Brew, Mike, I have no idea. But until we say there are 35 teams, 38 teams, 40 teams, and we're going to take those 40 teams and we're going to build our schedules off of that. And everybody else, the other 100, I think there's 138 teams in Division I football right now. The other 100, they can have their playoff system. They can go to the bowls. They can do all those things. But we're going to have an NFL model. And that NFL model is pretty darn good right now because their playoff system works. Our playoff system does not work right now. You're going to tell me, and I love James Madison has done a great job. They're going to load up and they're going to fly to Oregon and play the Oregon Ducks at Oregon. Now, and maybe they win, maybe they don't. We got Tulane that's going back to Ole Miss and going to play at Ole Miss. Well, they lost by 40 the first time. So until we equalize the schedules and everybody gets in on their merit, then we're going to have issues that occur like this.
Now, you talk about equalizing the schedules, and where it got out of balance was when these conferences started to become more scheduling alliances than really conferences. Because we all remember what it was like back in the day when the ACC had 9 teams. And man, that was a great league because everybody played everybody every year, home and away, and you had a sense of scheduling balance, of rivalries, of traditions. Well, that's gone by the wayside now. And when you look at the ACC standings, and I'm just looking at it right here, you have Virginia and Duke at the top, but then Miami and Georgia Tech, SMU, Pitt, Louisville, Wake Forest, State, California, Clemson, Stanford, Florida State, Virginia Tech, North Carolina, Boston College, Syracuse. That's the ACC, the Big East, and a few Pac-12 schools with whatever SMU is thrown in the mix there just for kicks and giggles. That's 17 brands that really have very little togetherness about them. There's really not a lot of tradition right there. And I think everybody would be happier if you didn't go back to division plays. But again, I've told this story before, Jim. You've heard me say it before. I had a conversation with John Swafford a few years ago in the parking lot of the ACC tournament, and he asked me what was going on. We were catching up, being some Western North Carolina guys together, just having a chat. And I gave him some unsolicited advice that got me an eye roll for the former Wilkesboro native. I said to him, why don't you just go to 2 divisions? You'll call one the Big East and one the ACC and quit playing these games that nobody cares about. That's a long-winded way of saying This needs to get back to some common sense. And if you did that, you would have this equal scheduling going on. You can have an alliance. But why do we have to be subjected to games against Boston College and Syracuse and Pitt? With all due respect, nobody cares in the ACC region. And I think it's really taking a shot at the traditions that so many people believe in, that they were raised up on, and now you're just looking at this and it's just not the same anymore. I'm not very excited about this year's bowl games because I don't think these kids care. I don't think the fans care, and the big loser for that, I guess, is the fan. That's just my opinion, but what do you guys think?
I don't think there's any interest right now in the bowl season. I don't think anybody's real excited about, these bowl games. I mean, there's nothing that really exciting about the matchups. And make no mistake about it, these kids, they're to the point where they would rather not go to the bowl game, have the time to themselves, spend Christmas at home. I mean, it just, it is what it is.
Well, Brew, and I think you'll second this. It used to be the bowl system allowed us to put some spending money in their pockets because
Right.
when you went to a bowl game, they got daily meal money, they got all these gifts, they got all these really, really nice things for them that we couldn't technically give them before. Well, guess what? Now they all make enough money. They're driving nice, not all of them. I shouldn't say all. A lot of them make enough money. They all think they're going to the NFL at this point in time. So the luster has come off of a bowl game. But I'm going to back up here 1 second and talk about scheduling here. I heard Steve Sarkisian the other day on a show, and Coach Sark made this comment. He said he had absolutely zero reason to schedule Ohio State again. And I'm sitting there thinking, and I'm saying, wait a minute now. Wonder, Sark, if you had won that game, would you still feel the same way that you do now? So obviously, it's whether you win or lose a key matchup and a national matchup like Texas and Ohio State. Different opinion. I guarantee you Ryan Day feels differently about it than Steve Sarkis does.
As career college football professionals, how does it feel to think that politicians could get involved any more in your game than they already are?
Politicians involved in athletics, that's a joke. We're talking about politicians who've allowed our country to be shut down for close to 40 days. So they're going to fix college football? Give me a break now that we need to fix our country at this point in time and let professional people fix college football, not politicians.
Yeah, I agree. There's no way that politicians should be calling athletic directors and recommending coaches. There's a lot of different things that politicians are doing right now, and they don't have the knowledge and the understanding of the game to really have the input that they're trying to give.
This holiday season, skip the traffic and jingle all the way with NC by Train. College students save 15% every day, and with ShareFare and other discounts, everyone gets a little holiday cheer. Ride to the NC Chinese Lantern Festival in Cary, the Glowing Light, the Knights Festival in Charlotte, Durham's magical Festival of Lights, High Point's brand new Winter Glow at the Point, or track down Thomas Dambo's whimsical troll sculptures across the state. Wherever your holidays take you, there's a train ready to help you relax, reconnect, and enjoy the ride. Plan your trip and save at ncbytrain.org. NC by Train. Holiday travel made easy.
Hey, Wolfpack Nation. You already know that when we talk about the great traditions of NC State athletics, Amedio's Italian restaurant is right at the heart of it. Since 1963, it's been the go-to spot for generations of Pack fans. The walls tell the story, the food seals the deal, and every visit feels like part of the family. Whether it's pregame pasta, postgame celebrations, or just a night out on Western Boulevard, Amedio's delivers every single time. Great people, great plates, and pure NC State pride. Stop by Amedio's, a true Wolfpack original.
Well, one person that has a knowledge of the game is Manny Diaz, and in a very short tenure as the head football coach at Duke University, The former Miami head coach has transformed the Blue Devils into ACC champions. Yes, that is a big smile you see on Jim Collins' face after that 27-20 overtime victory by the Blue Devils over Virginia. And guys, in this game, it really came down to this: 275-yard drives, nearly 18 minutes of possession, fourth down conversions, a fake punt, and complete control of tempo by Duke. They kept the ball and they win the game. Jim Collins, where was the defense from Virginia to come up and to stifle the Blue Devils like they did 3 weeks ago and change in Durham?
It's hard. I've only been in a couple of games where you've played somebody in the regular season, lost to them, and then you come back and play them again. It becomes a degree of difficulty. In the NFL, it happens a heck of a lot more than it does in college football. And that second preparation is difficult for both teams. I thought the Blue Devils had a great plan. They knew they needed to stay on the field with their offense. They went out there and did that. And if you look at the end of the game, Virginia probably should have been in hurry up the entire game because they went 96 yards in empty formations, throwing the ball down the field. They had 3 pass interference penalties that occurred and a great catch for the touchdown to tie the game at that point in time. So just a very interesting, complete game, one I enjoyed watching. But I'm going to ask you this, both of you guys, this: have you ever been part of or witnessed a 15-yard penalty in an overtime that the team had to start on their own 40 rather than on the 25-yard line? Why, with the success you had on your previous drive, if it was 1st and 10, even though you're on the 40-yard line, why you would open the drive when they had not slowed you down and you went 96 yards, why would you open with a trick play, throw back to the quarterback, double pass at that point in time? Now, the Duke linebacker made a great play, and they had it covered very, very well. But I just thought it was an interesting call at that point in the game.
In hindsight, you look at it and you say to yourself, wait, if Coach had a chance to do this thing, I think he's going to hold that one.
Coach Brewster, what kind of pressure is on a quarterback in that moment, in an overtime, when you know that one mistake can pretty much cost your team the game and also your chance at the CFP?
Well, that's why, Mike, that there's so much pressure on schools to go get an elite quarterback. If you don't have that guy that's going to, calm this under duress, I think that's one of the greatest traits that a quarterback can have. And Mensah really showed some really great qualities in that game. And I think the future is amazingly bright for him. He goes no huddle, like Jim said, and shoot, he takes them down the field. I mean, 3 touchdowns, and just really, I thought, played the game with a real calmness. And like I said, I just think that overall, it was a great win for Duke, and it was a great football game. I think the ACC celebrated 2 really good teams playing in the championship game, and the championship game played out the way it should have.
This may be a little bit off the subject, but both Duke and UVA had 8 representatives on the coaches' first, second, and third team All ACC teams, which placed them only behind the University of Miami, who had 14 players named on those 3 teams. So Duke and Virginia had good players, and they played a great conference championship game. Now, a lot of this controversy that we're going through right now goes back to the ACC's tie-breaking philosophy and what their tie-breaking rules were. And, if you get to the point where you can't say that the highest ranked team out of this goes to the championship game, then you run into this situation, of course, now that has overflowed into the national playoffs.
Are you juggling so many roles that none of them feel like you anymore? At Organize for Success, we help busy, multi-passionate leaders bring harmony back to every layer of life. Work, side projects, family, friends, even your passions and hobbies. For more than a decade, productivity expert Emily Parks has helped hundreds of clients clarify what truly matters and build the tools, systems, and habits to finally take action. If you're tired of feeling behind, visit organizeforsuccess.com and schedule your complimentary call today. Organize for Success. Get clear, get supported, get your time back.
The perfect Wolfpack pregame or postgame spot this season is Sammy's Tap and Grill in West Raleigh. Just minutes from NC State, Sammy's brings more than 65 TVs, a huge menu, 44 draft beers, and an atmosphere built for Wolfpack fans. Burgers, jumbo wings, cold drafts, and all the energy of the pack. Whether you're watching the kickoff, tip-off, face-off, or just gathering with friends, that's where you want to be. Swing by 2235 Avent Ferry Road, Raleigh, and make Sammy's Tap and Grill your Wolfpack game day headquarters. Sammy's, presenting partner of the This Was Then podcast and complete coverage of the NC State Wolfpack on the North Carolina Sports Network.
This is the second time in the last 3 years that the Atlantic Coast Conference has been a part of controversy as the CFP field has been announced. Of course, we remember when Florida State was left out of the CFP back 3 years ago, and now this year, the ACC champion was pretty much an afterthought. Nobody was even talking about Duke. Sure, they had 5 losses, but they were the ACC champions. Duke wins it on the field, and they're not going to the CFP, but Miami is staying at home, and they're going to the CFP, and an affiliate member of the ACC, at least in basketball and everything other than football, Notre Dame, is sit back crying at home. What is the confidence level, do you think, right now among the football coaches in the league that the leadership of the Atlantic Coast Conference, chiefly former Northwestern AD Jim Phillips, is really in control of managing the best outcomes for the league schools when it comes to football? Tim Brewster, I mean, you've been in the Big Ten, where, of course, Jim Phillips came from when he was at Northwestern, which I know you don't like because they're one of the arch rivals in that Land of Lincoln trophy with your Illinois Illini. But what does it feel like in that room right now when you think that, heck, 2 out of the last 3 years, the ACC has botched the football postseason?
The way that Notre Dame has gone at Jim Phillips and at the ACC, I think that they didn't do everything they needed to do to deserve to be a playoff team. And Jim Phillips is getting a lot of heat. They're getting a lot of talk. Is the ACC, I think, the A better than the Big Ten. It's not better than the SEC. I don't know. There's probably good talk whether or not it's better than the Big 12 and that type of thing. So I think the ACC just, the ACC needs to be the best version that they can be. And I thought that they stepped in the right direction with the championship game. I thought it was 2 really good football teams that played really well, that played a championship game the way a championship game should be played.
I thought it was a well-played game. I thought both teams played extremely hard. Obviously, they did. I thought I enjoyed watching the game. Of course, both games, all the games that day. I mean, Texas Tech BYU was not close, but the Indiana Ohio State game was a great game, and it goes to show you that you have to win it all. You have to be able to play great defense, and both Indiana. I thought Indiana's playing against Ohio State was outstanding, but that's a different subject for a different time.
When you look at Jim Phillips right now as the leader of the Atlantic Coast Conference, here's a guy that was born in Chicago, went to school at the University of Illinois. He was a basketball guy, former basketball coach, assistant at Arizona State before transferring over to the administrative side in the late 1990s. He has a PhD from the University of Tennessee, where he's also worked. But he has worked at Notre Dame, so it is kind of funny that the former head of external at Notre Dame, Jim Phillips, is now being assailed by the AD at Notre Dame for being anti-fighting Irish. I would find that probably not to be the case, but in this case, you're going to advocate for the University of Miami because they're a member of the Atlantic Coast Conference. I don't think this is any great surprise, but if you guys were the commissioners of the ACC, how would you change the tiebreaker? Would you just make it to where the tiebreaker is whoever is the highest ranked teams in the college football playoff ranking goes ahead to play in that championship game? Is that the most fair way to decide that?
In my opinion, Mike, it absolutely is. Just get the highest rated teams in the playoffs, in the playoff and go with it and live with it. I mean, again, everybody ought to respond and have the same thought process as Clark Lee at Vanderbilt when he just, hey, we didn't do enough. We didn't do enough to be in the playoff, and it is what it is. And I'll be damned if they're not one of the best 12 teams. I think that without a doubt they are.
If you're going to be in divisions, which the NFL, is in divisions, and college football obviously is in divisions at this point in time. Well, the South Division of the NFL, of the NFC right now, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers lead the division at 7-6. Well, they could end up as much as 8-9, 9-8, but guess what? They're going to make the playoffs because they're a division champion. So what rules do we need in college football? We're so far off in the selection. I mean, 2 years ago, we said that the 5 conference champions had automatic bids and so on and so forth. Now we say we've changed the rules on that, and it bites them in the ass once again. So we've been bitten in the ass in seeding the first year. We've been bitten in the butt this year because they don't allow a conference champion from a Power 4 into the tournament because they're 8-5. So at some point we've got to make a move. And I'm gonna get back to the topic right now. I don't blame Jim Phillips for fighting to get a team in, because if he doesn't fight for Miami to get in, then guess what? The ACC, there's a real possibility that the ACC gets completely shut out because they were not going to take the Duke Blue Devils.
We now move from theory to reality, and in that CFP field, Indiana, Ohio State, Georgia, and Texas Tech, they all get byes. Everybody else will head into hostile territory. James Madison will be at Oregon, Tulane at Ole Miss, Alabama at Oklahoma. Man, I tell you, these home field games are what everybody looks forward to. You're just pumped up to see how these things are going to come together. But last year, if you got a bye, you lost. Do you like having 2 weeks off right now if you get a bye, Tim Brewster, or is that something that you're sitting back and saying, man, I really wish we were just keeping on the roll and we were continuing our momentum?
You know what? I believe that, you want to get your kids fresh. You want them to be healthy. You want them to be, but you also don't want, it's all about momentum at this time of the year. It's all about momentum. And so I think that, myself, I would say, hey, play on. Let's play through it. And I think sometimes, you can lose your edge because coaches this time of year, they tend to really take their foot off the gas pedal. They tend to want to be worried more about injuries and that type of stuff. And are we going to be fresh enough to play? And they're all valid points. They're all really critical and important points. But I think that, staying on the field, playing the game, I think really, really is the best way to go about it.
Jim, does that extra week off hurt the defense more than the offense, or can you even qualify which side of the ball is at a disadvantage or an advantage with that extra break from competition?
We have first round games that are going to be played, obviously not this weekend, but the next weekend. The next round does not occur until after the first of the year. Is that not correct?
Right.
So not only are you getting an extra week off, you're getting much more than an extra week off. I would rather play in these first round games to wait that long. You got teams, the 4-bye teams, they're going to go from last weekend all the way to the beginning of January without playing a game. To me, that's tough. I don't know how you feel about that.
Totally agree, Jim. Totally agree. You lose your edge. I think more than anything, and particularly a defensive football team that, is going to strike and is, a physical, they're going to lose some of their edge. No doubt about it.
Basketball nights in the bold North State? They're built on passion, tradition, and the best barbecue and bacon in America. Our pig farmers deliver the smoky, savory flavors fans love while contributing more than $10 billion to the North Carolina economy. So every time you crush a pulled pork sandwich at halftime or grab a crispy strip of bacon before tip-off, remember the farmers who make it possible. North Carolina pork, good for the plate, great for the state. Learn more at ncpork.org.
Looking for real deal local flavor in Wilmington? Head to the Original Saltworks restaurant, run by Bob Hubbard and serving up Southern staples since the 1970s. Hot grits, buttery biscuits, juicy burgers and dogs. It's fast, it's fresh, and it's full of bold North State pride. Open for breakfast and lunch 7 days a week, always starting at 7 a.m. It's the Original Saltworks on Oleander Drive in Wilmington.
Let's talk about the group of five as a whole. Do they deserve two or even one team in the college football playoff? Brew, you were an interim head coach at Charlotte last year. You know what football at that level is about and the difference between that and the Texas A&Ms, the Florida States, North Carolinas that you've been a part of. What is the difference between a group of school and a group of five school in terms of their football program?
I think basketball is totally different. You play 64 teams in a dance, and you're able to match up so much better. And I think a huge difference between a JMU team and an Indiana team right now, an Oregon team. I think they're at a tremendous disadvantage. I don't think there's any way that one of those teams is going to beat a Power Four school. I mean, it just isn't gonna. I just don't see it happening.
Well, I think they are capable of beating a Power Four school somewhere on their schedule. Just go back 2 years, and James Madison scored 70 points on the University of North Carolina.
Right.
No, that's what you mean, Brew. I know you mean the play.
No, what I'm saying is a huge difference between playing a team in the regular season and playing them in the playoff. And I'm just saying the preparation and the focus for the playoff is absolutely at its highest level. And I just, I was at Charlotte. And I just don't see. I just don't see it happening.
Well, there's nobody that's going to make the argument that either one of those group of five schools is one of the 12 best teams in America. So if you're trying to get the 12 best teams in America and you're still doing it through the auspices of these conferences, which are unbalanced, and even among the big four conferences right there, the differences are massive, especially when it comes to finances. I mean, the Big 12 and the ACC are not in the same realm as the SEC and the Big 10. So what's the most fair way to do this? Jim Collins, if you had the magic wand and you could say this is how it's going to be done, how would you set up the postseason in college football? Would you have conferences? Would you just try to do the breakaway as you were talking about with like between 30, 40, or maybe even as many as 60 teams and just say, hey, this is who we're going to play with?
Well, the degree of difficulty in all this becomes that we still have, whether it's a playoff committee that gathered in Grapevine, Texas, we're not settling anything on the field at this point in time until we get to a point where the regular season scheduling is somewhat similar in whatever the number of teams are. And yes, I'm a huge advocate for a split. I think there needs to be a split. I think even if you take the current Power Four teams and they split, and that's where you draw from, and then you have a separate division of the non-Power Four teams and let them play for a national championship also. There's money enough out there for the entertainment dollar, and I think that would help the bowl games, because you take that playoff into the bowl system, just like the CFP is in the bowl system right now. There's a way to do that. I know I'm not smart enough to be able to come up with it, but there's enough money out there to support both of those, and there's enough people that want to spend their entertainment dollars on that you can make that system work, without a doubt in my mind. Brew, your reaction to that?
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Jim. I think that listen, people want to see football. They want to watch football games. They want to see, and to be quite honest with you, a whole bunch of them don't give a rip whether or not it's JMU playing Oregon or whatever it may be. It's a football game, And so, Mike, I agree with Jim and his thought process. There's, what'd you say, Jim? Plenty of money out there.
Plenty of money out there, and people smart enough that they can come up with a system to fix this. We can't say that we're going to continue to let it go. And the other thing is, I think going from 12 to 16 teams would solve this situation also. But we're never going to get to a point where there's anything over 16 teams would be way too watered down. So a 16-team playoff, in my idea, would be the ideal thing, that you could bring in all the conference champions and then you could take the highest rated teams.
Man, it's come a long way from Tom Mickle in the back of a napkin with the old BCS back in the day down in Orlando. And then they said, well, we'll do a 2-team playoff. We'll do a 4-team playoff, but we'll never go more than that. And it just seems to be inching closer and closer to what they have in FCS football, which is right now 24. I mean, it used to be 16 back when I was an FCS AD, but it is a challenging thing. And the impact of that is huge, because if you're North Carolina, NC State, Wake Forest, or the ACC champion Duke Blue Devils, you're okay for the most part. But if you're East Carolina, Appalachian State, or Charlotte, guys, you're kind of left over here in no man's land, a football purgatory, if you will, and that's going to have an impact on your institutional brand and everything else. These schools aren't just going to go away. So, I mean, how do you battle against that feeling that you're a second-class citizen if you're not in that first group? Because I'll just take Appalachian State, for example. I was the voice of the Mountaineers from 97 to 2000. I had a great time up there with Jerry Moore, but the whole time we were there, the number one thing that our fans talked about was, when are we going to move to 1A? When are we going to move to 1A? And then they win 3 consecutive FCS championships or 1AA championships in 4, 5, and 6. Get the big win over Michigan. Man, everything's going gangbusters for the Mountaineers. And now you're going to tell them that they have to go back? Man, I think that's a tough pill to swallow, but it's probably the right one, because the reality is, after this, do you think that the Texases and the Notre Dames and people like that are going to be real supportive of having those group of 5 teams be a part of a future playoff? And I'm not just talking one spot, I'm talking about none. I mean, I can't imagine the money's going to get to be too much. That they're just going to get frozen out. I don't see how that doesn't happen. But my friends in that level of group of 5 management say, oh no, that could never happen, we'd sue. Well, okay. I mean, I think the other people have more money. Just at the end of the day, it just comes down to, it's a mess. I mean, that's the one thing that Kenny Dillingham was saying on Monday on social media. He says every aspect of college football is a mess right now. What do you think, Jim?
I can't disagree with that. I think everything is a mess, and it all comes back to the one source. It all comes back to money, and how much money you're willing to spend, and how much money you can spend on your roster. You just take Penn State, for example, at this point in time. Penn State has already come out and made the statement that they're going to spend $30 million on their roster. What do you think? And I'll use App State for it, because, or Charlotte, or anybody else in the state. Where are they going to get $30 million unless they're Michigan State and they're going to find somebody that's going to give them $400 million like this guy just gave Michigan State? Then you've got a chance. But otherwise, you don't have enough money to keep your own roster. I mean, there are so many deals that are being made right now for players to go into the transfer portal and where they're going to go. Don't you find it interesting, though, Brew, that the transfer portal opens in January, yet the first day that it opens, somebody's going to go into the transfer portal, and then 2 days later, they're going to commit to somebody. Well, how in the hell did that happen? They didn't even visit that other school. So you're going to tell me all these deals are not being made at this present time, and it all funnels back to how much money you're willing to spend to win. Well, that's why Texas Tech, look at Texas Tech right now. Texas Tech spent buku-doodles of money on their roster, and they very well may be the best team in the country right now.
It's all about the money. And I think there's a huge difference between, and Mike, you said it, between the Power Fours and the Power Fives. I just don't see being a realistic fit with the Power Fours playing against the Power Five teams. And I don't see the value in the game. I think that there needs to be a line of delineation there, a separation there. And because I'm going to tell you, I mean, There's no way with what Jim just said, the amount of money that Penn State's going to use, and then how much say they play in JMU, okay? How much money has JMU got for their roster?
The JMUs of the world and the Tulanes of the world that continue to win at that level and do a great job, and they've got the money to, JMU can go out now and hire Billy Napier as their coach and do those things. But when you go back and you look at the programs that struggle to win in their own conferences right now, they can't compete with this money that's out there. It's ridiculous what we're doing. So at some point, until we adjust all this, it's going to be a broken system.
This is the North Carolina Sports Network. From the high country to the Outer Banks, on courts, fields, and fairways, we tell the stories of the bold North State. Follow us on social media at the NC Sports Net. We're the exclusive home of The David Glenn Show, coach-driven analysis of football and basketball. A look at the past with This Was Then, Inside NIL with Court Vision, the North Carolina Sports Awards, aka the Pineys, and the Old North State Tailgate, where we are on the ground at North Carolina's top events. Our foundational partner is NC Pork, raising the bacon, raising the bar. Telling the stories of the bold North State. Experience matters. This is NCSN, the North Carolina Sports Network.